Ask Shelly Show. My name is Shelly Fan. I am your emotional intelligence expert, and we are talking about breaking the cycle of making up and breaking up and making up and breaking up. We're going to break that cycle today. Our writer is writing in and saying, listen, I've been doing this for 7 years and I want it to stop. I want it to end. So that's what we are talking about today. Have you ever been in a relationship that was just make up to break up, make up to break up? We're going to talk about it today. Make sure you share. Make sure you engage. I say this all the time. My listeners find your input, the input of this community, this family, my fellow consultants, to be so powerful, to be so beneficial. So please engage. Let us know what you think. Let us know if you experienced it. What's your feedback? How do you want to empower the writer? Listen, we're all in this together. Each one teach one, right? That's what I love about this platform. It gives us an opportunity to really reach out and use our own experiences, our thoughts, our positions to help people to see their situation through different eyes, right? Because sometimes, most of the time, we are operating in our blind spot. So this is why your feedback is so valuable. So make sure that you are engaging. Let me know where you're tuning in from. I am, again, your emotional intelligence expert, CEO and owner of Ask Shelly Consulting, where we are bringing corporations to peak performance through the provision of psychoeducation. So I have the privilege of working with corporation leaders and other business entities and bringing their teams to the next level. I'm a licensed psychotherapist. I have the opportunity to partner with people as they commit themselves to changing their lives. So I provide therapy, individual, marriage counseling, family counseling, love it. My highlight of last week was facilitating a sex enhancement workshop for a team. I think it was about 10 or 11 couples. It was so amazing. And I was just reminded about how much I love what it is I do. So I had the privilege of teaching how to maximize intimacy, therefore maximizing sex satisfaction and fulfillment. So I also have the privilege of answering questions. Just the other day, I had someone come and pronounce my Escalade dead. I was so super sad about that. So if there is anyone that would like to buy me a car, please let me know and make sure it is paid in full. Hi, Keegan 1924. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's Ask Shelly Show. And the whole time he's fixing my car, he's like, okay, so what about this? And, can you really control people? Can you cause people to change? I'm like, here we go again. So I just love being able to share the questions that are asked of me with all of you. So engage. This is not therapy. It's an opportunity for me and all of you to provide feedback. Why? We want to add tools to our wellness toolbox, or deposit it into someone else's wellness toolbox. If this is not for you, if the shoe doesn't fit, don't wear it. But you know what? It will be helpful to someone else. So this is why I'm encouraging you to share. You never know who's going to see it or who's going to hear it. Are we ready for this week's question? Let me know where you are tuning in from. Those of you on Facebook, hello, Facebook family. Butterfinger6 and Keegan over here. Thank you so much for tuning in. All right, here's our question. Consultants, get your thinking caps on. We are about to change another life. Here we go. Dear Ask Shelly, I am pathetic. What a way to start a question. I just posted about the use of words. We'll talk about that later. Dear Ask Shelly, I am pathetic. No other way to put it. Just pathetic. I have been in a roller coaster relationship that I cannot quite seem to get off of. I have been with my boyfriend for many years. I believe we are at year 7 at the moment. I saw my life at this age as being much different, married, with children, successful. I would have never thought that I would be in a dead-end relationship with a man that has zero emotional availability. I wonder if she's a clinician. She worded that so good. I thought because he is not a cheater and has never been dishonest, that it should be enough for me to stay, even though I am highly unhappy. And so is he. We argue all of the time about the same issues. We have no intimacy. Sex is completely disconnected. I feel alone, although I am in a relationship. We do not live together, and I have noticed that the same alone feeling I feel when I am at home and haven't seen him in a while is the same feeling that I feel when we are together. We have had long, teary, and snotty conversations about breaking up. We have said our final goodbyes, announced to our friends and families, just to end up back together again with not one change to celebrate. It is an awful thing, just awful, because every time this happens, I go through withdrawals and become physically sick as if I cannot live without him. I just want this problem to end. All right, Instagram, let me know what you think. Put your thoughts in the comments, your feedback, your encouragement, your counsel here on Facebook and YouTube. You guys can do the same. Hello, Sherry Smith. Thank you so much for tuning in. Sherry Smith on Facebook says, this sounds like narcissistic abuse. Set yourself free, queen. Come on, Sherry Smith. And then, she threw something in there, trauma bonding. You know what? I need to do a segment on that. I wasn't even thinking to highlight that, but that is so good. Oh my gosh. I'm making a note, trauma bonding, please. That's so good. Thank you, Sherry Smith. And so I'm going to repeat the question, and we're going to talk about some things. And we know that we can come from so many different perspectives when it comes to how we're going to navigate through issues and what feedback we are going to provide individuals who write in. So make sure you put your comments, put your feedback in the comments. It is so important. We are changing lives. We're changing the world, one life at a time. I'm going to repeat the question to kind of break it down a little bit. Dear Ask Shelly, I am pathetic. Listen, the atmosphere has one assignment, and that is to obey what it is we say. We have to be careful with the words that we speak because our words become the environment that we live in. We could spit out our environment, right? It's almost like we create a cocoon with the words that we use. You are a queen. You are royalty. You are not pathetic. You have a challenge that you need to get over in order to get to your next level and break through, right? It's challenges are inevitable, and we have them. They are there. They appear before us when God desires to promote us, when God desires to grow us, to stretch us. So it's not about being pathetic. It's about buying into the fact that this is a challenge. This is a battle that is already won. We have to be able to see our next, right? And not get lost in our now. We all have a next, and we have to remember that everything that we do now is for our next. Listen, you are not pathetic. You are about to break through, queen. We got to be careful with the words that we use. She says, no other way to put it, just pathetic. And if you believe you're pathetic, then that's exactly what's going to happen in your life. You are going to subconsciously create outcomes that would cause you to continue to feel pathetic. It's called a word curse. And so many people speak that over their lives. A lot of the situations that we are going through has been birthed out of something that we said about our situation, something negative that we said about our situation. I am personally offended by the people that continue to speak down on 2020 because your words are continuing to produce. Every time you say, what else can go wrong? Some other tragedy happens. Please speak life into the last quarter of 2020, please, because I'm getting offended with all of this negative talk. Speak life, speak prosperity, speak love. You are not pathetic, queen. Keegan on Instagram says, this seems to be a mutual feeling between the two of them. He seems to have a similar struggle with her. They need to find some way to stay apart. It's never easy to part when we are looking for a partner. That's right, Keegan 1924. PJ Renee, hey Precious, she says, come on, it's true. We need to be careful with the words that we speak. So she says, I have been in a roller coaster relationship that I cannot seem to get off of. It's because you're not choosing to get off of it. I have been with my boyfriend for many years. I believe we are at year 7 at the moment. Haven't you noticed a trend here that a lot of the couples that write in have been in these very long relationships, but have not necessarily landed in marriage? I wonder if there's something going on there. Is there a timeline? Like, can you date for too long? Can you be in a relationship that you haven't reached the ultimate commitment? Is there like some type of time? I want to hear what you guys got to say about that. Just interesting. It's always these couples that have been together for so many years that appear to have the most issues. And I am just judging that based on the questions that we receive. So I'll let you marinate on that. You tell me what you think. All right, so I saw my life at this age as being much different. You know, sometimes we get stuck in our stories, right? And sometimes our current situation doesn't match the story that we had written out for our lives. And it's important for us to learn the skill set and to really work on building that resilient muscle when our situation doesn't look like what we expected. When the story just doesn't align with what we thought we were going to be walking out, the life that we were going to be walking out. And this is why flexibility is so important. It is a tool. It is a survival skill. And most people that want to achieve success have to learn how to be flexible and accepting of things that just didn't turn out the way that you wanted. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you are powerless over living your life in such a way that attracts the desired outcomes that you want for your life. So she believed she was going to be married with children and successful. I would have never thought I would be in a dead-end relationship with a man that has zero emotional availability. So we don't know much. She doesn't say much about what they argue about. She did mention that he's not a cheater. So, you know, all I'm hearing is that he has some emotional unavailability. Usually those are, that is birthed out of fear. It's birthed out of injury, right? You know, men have injury too. They have baggage too. It's not just us as women. And so emotional unavailability is rooted in fear and injury. And so I'm not saying that for this woman to stay. See, what happens is sometimes we understand the issues that our partners have. We can understand it. We get the abandonment. We get the fact that they're depressed. We get the fact that they didn't have a mother figure or a father figure, or they didn't have a good example of what a great marriage is or a great relationship. Sometimes we are able to understand the reasons why our partners do the things that they do or contribute to the issues the way that they do. When we are able to understand that, sometimes we get into a dangerous space where because we understand it, we accept it. No, you can understand it, but you don't have to stay. You can understand the issues. You can be able to kind of go back and understand how your partner's childhood experience or aversive childhood experience has contributed to why they are the way that they are. It's important to also take personal responsibility, right? Because with problems, we all play a part of problems. It's never unilateral. Most of the time, we all play a part in it, even if your part is acceptance. If your part is acceptance, you're strengthening the cycle, right? You're reinforcing the cycle. But remember, just because you understand doesn't mean you have to stay. Just because you understand doesn't mean you have to accept it. All right? All right, let's go. So I thought because he is not a cheater and has never been dishonest, that it should be enough for me to stay, even though I am highly unhappy. There are many women that think this. There are many that it's almost like if he's not cheating, then everything else is acceptable. No, cheating's not acceptable. Being emotionally unavailable is not acceptable. Being non-responsive is unacceptable. Not being fully present is unacceptable. Wow, who wrote that cheating is like the only unacceptable, non-negotiable thing? Right? And so she stays with him, even though she's unhappy because he's not a cheater. Come on, people. So she says, we argue all the time about the same issues. I love to hear what those issues are. She doesn't go into it. We have no intimacy. Sex is completely disconnected. So they're still having sex without the intimacy. Red flag, by the way, okay? I feel like alone, although I'm in a relationship, we do not live together, and I've noticed the same alone feeling when she's with him or without, right? Because what does she say? He's emotionally unavailable. A lot of women who are with emotionally unavailable men, or vice versa, men who are with women that are emotionally unavailable, often feel like I'm alone in this relationship. She says we have had long, teary, and snotty conversations about breaking up. We have said our final goodbyes, announced to our friends and families, just to end up back together again with not one change to celebrate. It is an awful thing, just awful, because every time this happens, I go through withdrawals and become physically sick. How many have ever experienced physical illness over a breakup? Tell the truth, shame the devil, okay? She says, I go through withdrawals and become physically sick as if I cannot live without him. I just want this problem to end. All right. So I have my consultation team here. All right. Sherry says, negative self-talk is a no-no. That is correct, because your body will go into fight or flight mode because of that negative talk. When you start to attack yourself, you go into defense mode just the way you would if somebody else was attacking you. Your brain don't know the difference. Your brain doesn't know the difference. And so when you go into fight or flight mode, you can best believe that progress at that point is very difficult to happen, because progress comes by way of absorbing new information. We cannot change without new information. So when you are in your fight or flight mode, in your victim brain, in your trauma brain, the emotional centers of your brain are ignited. And so you know what that does? It suppresses your ability to logically think. It suppresses your ability to absorb new information. Be careful how you speak to yourself. Let me say it again. Your brain doesn't know the difference. The same way that it would respond to someone else posing a threat to you, your brain would think the same even when it's your own self-talk. So that's so good to be careful with what you say. Let me go over here to Instagram. So on Instagram, Keegan says maybe they know that they are not compatible but don't want to be alone, so they stay together for a long time. Loneliness is no joke, even if we love ourselves. And you know what? That is one of the enemy's main tactics. And that is to tap into, first establish, plant, and then really tap into the fear that we have of being alone. This is why it's so important to achieve successful singlehood in the relationship development process. Thank you. That was so good, Keegan 1924. Precious says, his hurt may not be her assignment. Come on. And they're both afraid of being lonely because they have to face the roots of the problems. She goes on to say, yes, that's so good. Just because you understand doesn't mean you have to stay. Hello, STA cover. Thank you so much for joining. All right, so let's go into this. Let's unpack this a little bit. So first thing, we have to make sure that when we call things problems, right, most of the time it's not really a problem that we have, but a pattern. Janie Lacey says it so good. I remember when she said, a lot of people, it's not that we have problems or they have problems, but they have patterns. And she recognizes it and says, I want to get off of this roller coaster. It's important to understand this. It's important to understand that the things that we want in life, they are things that we deserve. So when we write down all the things that we want in life, it's important to also rewrite it and say that you deserve it. And after you say that you deserve it, you have to make sure that in present tense that you are declaring that you are attracting it, that you are bringing it in. So I want a healthy relationship. I deserve a healthy relationship, and I am attracting a healthy man. Do you get that? So when we are doing our daily declarations, because the atmosphere has no other assignment but to produce what it is you say, why don't we start declaring truth and life? So, Queen, what you want are the things that you deserve. You just have to do the work to attract it. I want to talk about the stages of grief here. This is so important. I want to talk about the stages of grief, the stages of loss, and there are many different stages. I'm going to talk about 5. The first one is denial. And this is when we deny that the issue is even there. And I'm talking about the grieving process. That process doesn't begin until you have finally made the decision to detach yourself or separate yourself from that unhealthy relationship. Sometimes we start grieving even in it because we know what our next step is. We know that we have to go. But there's a reason why I want to break down the stages of grief. Because there's a particular stage that many of us relapse and go back to the person that we left in the first place. So the first stage of grief and loss is denial. A lot of the times that denial is manifested in the form of feeling numb. And so because we feel numb, we really can't move. We really not, like, I know I'm not with him, but I'm just kind of numb. I'm just kind of doing my thing. I'm not crying. I'm not reaching out. It's just like this really blah, numb stage. Or it could be just full blown out denial. You're working, you're doing this, you're traveling, and all your friends are like, are you sure you're okay? So denial is the first stage. And then the next stage after denial is anger, right? So now the numbness is starting to wear off, and now you're starting to feel a little angry, right? Most of the time it's anger that is turned outward, and it could be anger that then turns inward. It could start with anger that's turned inward and then eventually turns outward, or it could be simultaneously anger that you have outward and inward. Hello, Stefan. Thank you so much for joining, boo. Okay, so here we go. So we have the denial, and then we have anger. So you're blaming him. I can't believe he did this. I gave 7 years of my life. And then the anger turned inward as I can't believe I gave 7 years of my life. I can't believe that I wasn't good enough for him, right? And so we have to understand that these are the normal stages of grief, and we have to be able to accept and just allow our emotions to do what they do when we are healing. So we have denial, we have anger. The next stage is bargaining. This is where you go into the coulda, woulda, shoulda. I could have been better. I could have been a better husband. I should have done this at this time. If I did more of this or less of that. So in this stage of bargaining, you start to highlight all of the things that could have been different, right? And that comes because you're engaging in the coulda, woulda, shoulda. You start to experience guilt and you start to experience shame. Right? So you go from being super, super angry to, you know what? We could have made it work. If we did this, we could have made it work. If we did that, we could have I could have done this. I should have done that. All guilt, all shame. And then it transitions to the next stage, which is depression. Depression comes with isolation. It comes with anxiety. It comes with self-condemnation. It comes with thoughts that are not sober about self and others. And then the last is acceptance, where you have accepted that the story is just not what you planned for your life, where you accept that, you know what, I did not make the best decisions. He did not make the best decisions. It wasn't his fault. It wasn't my fault. Or it was his fault and it was my fault. This is the personal responsibility that I take. This is what I learned moving forward. This is what these are my red flags. This is how I need to develop. These are the areas that I need to grow in. Just full acceptance and being able to let go. And being able to let go is a very, very important part of life. It is a skill set that would cause us to be powerful in dealing with the fiery darts of the enemy or the general trials and tribulations that we will face as human beings, right? The art of letting go. The art of acceptance, but also understanding that in that acceptance, I am choosing to grow through this, to learn and be better on the other side. What stage do you think people generally end up going back? What stage do you think that they end up going back? Now, remember this, that one of the number one reasons why people go back to relationships after breakup is because there is an understanding that something has changed or will change. And most of the time that thinking is very faulty, that perception is very distorted, right? So when you think about the stages, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance, what stage do people generally go back to the relationship in? And drum roll, please, that stage is bargaining. When you get over that anger and you start thinking like, I could have done this better, I should have done that better, if I would have done more of this or less of this, man, if we had therapy, we coulda, woulda, shoulda. You start feeling guilt and shame. Most of the time, we go back when we are in the bargaining stage. We have to understand this, because when we are going through things, the more emotional intelligence that you have, you will be able to look at your situation not in your feelings, but from a more objective place. And I know it's difficult, and I know that most of the time we are in our blind spot, but emotional intelligence helps us to be able to create some balance with our feelings. Feelings are not facts. And we make decisions based on things that we feel and not necessarily wisdom. Wisdom does include some feelings, but it mostly includes knowledge that you are applying. You can't apply what you do not know. And so this is why it's important to give ourselves the opportunity to heal and learn new information to break through to the other side. Okay, so now that we've broken down the stages of grief, is because I wanted to make sure that we understand that grief does not only come with the loss of lives and loved ones. It could be the loss of status. It could be the loss of things. It could be the loss of relationships. And we have to be able to acknowledge that I am grieving. And the feeling and the aversion that you feel as a result of grieving, right? The things that you feel as a result of the grieving is not a sign, a warning sign that you have to go back. We have to stop going back because the feelings are so aversive. You could miss him, but don't need to go back to him. It's all a part of the grieving process. Oh, yes, Martine, you got it right. Bargaining is the stage that most people go back. And guess what? It's just a stage. You're going back and it's just a stage. It's something that will pass. It will pass. Stop making permanent decisions based on temporary emotional states or temporary circumstances or temporary seasons. You could miss him, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go back. The next thing that I want to talk about is how behavior happens, right? Because when you can pick out a behavior that you want to change, you have to first understand why it's happening. And when you can understand why a behavior is happening, then you have more power to change it. In this particular case, the behavior that we are targeting, the behavior that we want to see change is her going back. Behavior, we can see it. We can measure it. We can measure frequency. We can measure the severity, how long it happens for. That's behavior. So in this particular case, consultants, the behavior is going back to the relationship after a breakup. That's the behavior. So we have to understand three things. We have to understand what conditions does it generally happen? What specifically is the behavior, which we just identified, and what happens after the behavior that strengthens it? How is this behavior being strengthened? Because when we can point out why this behavior or what is causing the behavior to be so strong, we can break it. Because every behavioral issue is tied to a skill deficit. Every behavioral issue is tied to a skill deficit, something that we do not know or something that we know and we're not necessarily applying. So the things that happen, the conditions that this behavior happens is what? After a breakup, When she's feeling sick, throwing up, so she has a lot of aversive feelings, aversive emotional states. I miss him. I can't believe I did this, blaming self or what have you. These are all the conditions that this behavior happens. And so what happens afterward is because she experiences so much aversion, she goes back. And when she goes back, what happens? When she goes back, then the aversion is removed. See, behavior happens for 4 different reasons. We behave for attention. We behave to escape and avoid. We behave when we want to get something tangible or achieve power and control. We behave because it feels good. Those 4 things: for attention, for escape, to attain something tangible or something abstract like power or control, or it feels good. In this particular case, she is what's strengthening that behavior is escape avoidance. Her success in being able to escape, avoid the pain, escape, avoid the loneliness, escape, avoid the stages that we talked about in grief. The fact that she has been able to successfully escape and avoid that has continued to strengthen that behavior. So anytime there is a behavior that's strengthened by escape avoidance, we have to teach tolerance. We have to increase that person's ability to tolerate that aversive situation. So the skill deficit is resilience with undesired emotions. How many people in this country have that issue? An inability to tolerate aversive emotional states. So this woman needs counseling. She needs to learn how to sit in aversive emotional states, aversive mindsets. How do you do that? How do you sit in it? How do you grow through it instead of just go through it? How do you grow through it? How do you take your anxiety level from a 10 to a 4? How do you continue to function without someone that you've been with for 7? It's all about skill set. And so I am telling this woman, what you need is help learning how to sit in your emotions without reacting to them. You have been reactive, and your reactivity has caused the cycle to recycle itself. It has caused the pattern to continue to repeat itself, because you know one thing, and that's to go back. You haven't diversified how you're responding to the situation. So because of that, you're going back to the survival skill that works. And that is, if I go back, I don't have to deal with the feeling of loss. But there's no health in that, because the things that we are not able to overcome in life, they will pop up in different ways, in different areas of our life, until we overcome it and break it. Until we overcome it and break it. So now that we have identified what is strengthening the behavior, we know that this woman needs empowerment. She has to learn how to just sit in the disappointment. Sit in the, after 7 years, I did not get what I expected out of this relationship. And guess what? It's okay. Learning how to pivot is a very, it may be difficult, but it's doable when you are aligning yourself with someone that could walk you through it, teach you the skill, hold you accountable. So now that we know what's strengthening the behavior, it's escape, avoidance, and maybe some attention, right? Because she'll get the attention. He's attending to her. Well, I don't know about that, because she said he was emotionally unavailable, but the main function of that behavior is escape avoidance. How many of us have escape avoidance as a survival skill? How many of us? Hi, it's Vega Love on Instagram. Many of us have behaviors that are driven by escape avoidance. And what we need to do is we need to learn how to sit. We need to learn how to be resilient. We need to learn how to grow through things. We need to understand and operate in a way where feelings are not facts, and we're still able to move forward and overcome and soar above the clouds, soar above our situations so we can continue to win. Understand that challenges are fixed fights. They are there as part of a chapter in your book. It's not a destination. It's just a pass through, right? And we just have to remember that we're passing through this process of life, and every challenge has your name at the end of it, and right next to your name after that trial, after that tribulation, is victor. It's a fixed fight. We got to learn to sit in aversive emotional states and be able to process everything that we're feeling. Some of the things that I want to make sure that this woman hears is, number one, stop your self-blame. You started this whole question by saying, I'm pathetic. Stop the self-blame. Stop the self-blame. His inability to be present emotionally is not your fault. And even though there may be things that have happened in your relationship that you should take personal responsibility for, you cannot blame yourself for why this man did not marry you, did not take the relationship to another level, did not operate in a way that would have manifested your dreams of being married with children, right? You cannot blame yourself. That's one. Don't personalize. The next thing is grant yourself permission and the opportunity to heal. Every time, it hurts me so much, and I see it so much in women who do not give themselves the opportunity to heal. They want to go to the next relationship or the next void filler. It's important to give yourself an opportunity to heal, because when you give yourself the opportunity to heal, it's at that point that you will have the power, the resilience, the healing, the presence to attract the man that you do deserve. But that only comes by way of healing. So stop delaying your growth. Stop suppressing your blessings, and grant yourself permission and the opportunity to grieve and heal. The next thing is to make sure that you commit to growing through this. And that means that you're not in denial. You're not avoiding talking about it. You're still adopting other escape avoidant survival skills, but that you are committing yourself to staying present in it. Because you got to be present in it. You have to be mindful. You have to be grounded in your situation so that you can continue to learn new skill. So commit yourself to growing through this process of loss. Grow through it. Commit yourself to learning new information. The next thing, because you're committing to growing through the situation, that means that you're going to go through some things. You're going to be going through therapy. You're going to be learning new information. You're going to be journaling. You're going to be avoiding phone calls from him. It's going to be a lot, but it's so beautiful because you're going to be shining on the other side. So just as you have to prepare for a trip, just the way that you need to prepare for a journey, prepare for this healing journey. And the first thing that you have to do in preparation for your healing journey is to identify your needs. Identify your needs and separate those needs apart from him. It's make sure that you identify your needs separate and apart from him. You may need more time with friends. You may need more time with family. You may need to travel more. You may need therapy. You may need healthy distractions during this time. Identify everything that you need to prepare for this journey and make sure those needs are separate and apart from him, because you do not need him to live. Your feelings cause you to believe that you need him to live. And so you start vomiting and throwing up and going through what you call withdrawals. That's because you are adopting your feeling as truth. Feelings are not truth. Feelings are not facts. They're feelings. But your body is responding to how you feel as if it is true. So you are adopting it as truth. We got to be careful how we channel and these feelings to make sure that we are not reacting to them. Acknowledge them, sit in them, but do not react to them. And so she's reacting to these feelings of loss as if she cannot live without him. And the devil is a liar. Not only can you live without him, you will live without him. You will get to the other side. You have to get the car. You have to get the broke down hoopty out the parking spot. Get it out of that one parking spot that you have for your husband. Move it out. Clear it out. So that when hubby comes, he has a place to park. Isn't that Steve Harvey that talks about that? So understand your needs at this time and create a strategic plan to meet those needs. Align yourself with an accountability. I couldn't get that out. Align yourself with an accountability partner to go over those needs, because you may go align yourself with an accountability partner that will say, you don't need that. Why do you need to have a closure conversation with him? Cross that off the list, boo. You do not need a closure conversation. Your closure is your healing process. We place too much power on this idea of closure that keeps us in the cycle. So align yourself with an accountability partner that will go over those lists of needs with you to truly help you to assure that you are not in your blind spot when you create it. The next thing, be very clear about the things that you're hoping to gain out of this. What do you want to look like at the end? Do you want to look fit? Do you want to be successful? Do you want to achieve those things in singlehood, that house that you wanted? What do you want to look like? What do you want your situation to look like when you get to the other side? And it's important because sometimes we have to start with the end in mind. That does what? It promotes hope. It promotes hope. So what do you want to look like on the other side? I know it may be hard to imagine your life with another man after being with this man for 7 years, but it's going to be important that you have an idea of the things that you want to gain in this process and hold very firm to that while you take this journey to break through. I think it's important that you really consider counseling. Counseling will assist you with identifying all of the things that you are experiencing loss over, and it will also help you to iron that out. Loss of companionship, loss of self-affirmation, loss of whatever, intimacy, feeling less than, feeling not enough. Being able to really unpack each emotion and emotional reaction, and really processing that in a very therapeutic way will help you to break through. And so my recommendation for you is to get counseling. Remember, do not take it personal. Continue to speak life. Make sure that you're giving yourself the opportunity to heal and go through the grieving process, to grow through the situation, and to make it on the other side stronger. We have to learn how to do it different. A lot of the times when we are trying to break a cycle, it's because we're not doing anything different. Do it different. Become aversive. I speak in aversion to how you used to do it. I speak in aversion to it, so that when you even feel like going back, that you just get this feeling of fatigue over you, like I am just tired of this, right? We have to do it different. You are tired of the same arguments, do it different. You're tired of the same financial outcome, do it different. You're tired of the same relationship outcome, do it different. Do it different. That means that you're not doing it different enough. Do it different. Do it different this time. You have the capacity to break the pattern. Do it different. And remember what we started with. The things that we want in life are things that we deserve, and we should be able to say it. Say what you want. Say that you deserve it, and say that you are actively achieving it. Those 3 things. I want a great relationship. I deserve an amazing relationship, and I am attracting healthy men in order to have this healthy relationship. Speak it. Don't call yourself pathetic. Your words become your environment. So speak life over your situation. You are a queen. You will break this pattern. Even trying to do it by yourself is not doing it different. Sometimes we don't even want to bring people in because we feel wholeheartedly that we can do it ourselves, but you haven't done it in 7 years. So do it different. Align yourself with a team that will hold you accountable and that will give you the support that you need to break through to your other side. Queen, you got this. Let me see what we have here on Facebook. Hi, Martine. Martine says, especially if the person that left the I don't know what that means, start acting better with the other person involved, then one will bargain to do better, blaming themselves for ruining the relationship. Okay, that's what that is. Okay, so specifically, if the person that left the relationship start acting better with the other person involved, then one will bargain to do better, blaming themselves for ruining the relationship. So yes, now listen, that just means that, when change comes, listen, let me just talk about change for a second. Sometimes we perceive it as change. Oh, he changed. Well, we have to be careful because maybe things got better. Maybe he progressed, but progress isn't change. We got to stop. Someone once told me that is really negative. No, it's not. Progress is not change. Change is when something that is unhealthy stops, when the healthier option of that thing begins. It's at that place that something that needs to stop stops, when something that needs to start starts. That is change. And a lot of the time we get so happy and sold out over progress that never leads to change. So when couples come, and I always use this example because I want you guys to hear it, is that when couples say to me, oh my God, thank you so much for therapy. I think that we've done good over these past several months. Things have improved, and they tell me sex has improved, and, conversation has improved, and this has progressed. And I'm like, great. Tell me what has stopped and what has started. Because when you cannot identify what has stopped and what has started, guess what? Change did not happen. And so we have to be careful that we are not satisfied with just progress. Like, this is what this whole Black Lives Matter thing is about, right? We got to be careful. We can't just stop at progress. We got to see that thing all the way through to true change and transformation. But what we do is we see a little change and we go back. We see change, just like what you said, Martine, and we start bargaining. Well, maybe now that he's whatever, I can go, maybe now, okay, I could, should. That whole bargaining thing happens when we see a little bit of progress. But progress is not change. When you make the decision to walk away, keep walking and keep walking till your breakthrough. Because obviously, whether he changes miraculously or not, the fact that you are literally experiencing physical illness over separation of a relationship means that, honey, you need healing. You need healing. So if anything else, get the healing that you need and allow yourself to be free in the strength that you will achieve as a result of healing. Yes? All right. Thank you so much. Oh, this is good. This is good. She says, Martine says, definitely get professional help because this behavior could become obsessive and dangerous. Absolutely. It could only get worse. They've been doing this for 7 years. It's completely toxic. Toxic. Say the word with me, toxic. And everyone that's in a toxic situation, know this. God has given you everything that you need to walk away. We will fool ourselves into thinking that we are not strong enough to walk away, but God has given us everything that we need to walk away. So be very careful of your survival skills. Be very careful of your escape avoidant behaviors that we do because we have not found the resilience and the skill set to sit in emotions and situations that are aversive, that are undesired. Overcome by learning how to sit in that. It's important to learn how to smile in the storm. Because when you learn how to smile in the storm, there is nothing that can take that joy away from you. That level of joy, when you learn to just tap into the joy of the Lord, even in the midst of the storm, no one could have dominion over your emotions when you have achieved the ability to smile in the storm. So give yourself the opportunity to break through, Queen. All right, Facebook, YouTube, thank you so much for tuning in to this week's Ask Shelly Show. For those of you who want to bless me, please go to my YouTube page and subscribe. You can find me on YouTube at Ask Shelly. And you can subscribe there, turn on your notifications. You can get all of my, or see all of my videos there on YouTube, past videos, current videos, videos that I never went live with. You can find that all on my YouTube channel. That's Ask Shelly. You can book me for your next event on my website, www.askshelly.com. And for those of you who have questions, make sure that you submit your questions to info@askshelly.com, and I will highlight it right here every Tuesday at 12. So write in your questions, info@askshelly.com. You could also send your questions in on www.askshelly.com. And for those of you who feel like, you know what, I think I need a little bit of support. I've heard this. I've had my own struggles. Oh my God. I think I have some survival skills that are very unhealthy. Oh my God. I'm totally numb right now. Never knew that my numbness was a form of denial. Oh my God. I am very escape avoidant. That's why I smoke. That's why I masturbate. That's why I bite my nails. Oh my God. I didn't know what to call it. It's called escape avoidant behavior. If that's you, email info@askshelly.com and let's get this counseling going. Let's get this breakthrough going. This is the time for breakthrough. We are under an open heaven. And guys, tomorrow night at 7 p.m., my virtual book launch party is tomorrow at 7. bit.ly/keep the vows is where you go to register. That's bit.ly/keep the vows in order to register. Guys, it's not going to be live on Facebook. Guys, it will not be live on Instagram. Guys, it will not be live on YouTube. The virtual launch is in a special virtual conference platform that you have to register to be a part of. So for those of you who want to celebrate the launch of my first book, Struggling to Keep the Vows, make sure you register bit.ly/keep the vows. Make sure you register now and join me at the virtual launch party tomorrow at 7 o'clock. I will have an opportunity to engage and answer specific questions to me. I have amazing co-authors that were on this project. Struggling to Keep the Vows is the name of the book, and we're having a virtual book launch tomorrow at 7. So I'm going to have my hair right, my makeup right. It's going to be so amazing. And I want my listeners to be there in support of that. So I will see you tomorrow at 7. Make sure you register bit.ly/keep the vows. And I will see you at the virtual book launch tomorrow at 7. God bless you. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you share, and see you next Tuesday at 12. Blessings. And blessings to you, Instagram. Thank you so much for tuning in again to this week's Ask Shelly Show.